All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insanely Year 13. Real quickly, let's look over some of the drivers who will be taking part here in Stint 3 out of 6 here for the Silverstone 2,000 kilometers. Deadpan X7 will be back in that red, black, and white BMW. AFZ Antony will be in the Logitech BMW. Rexpertise will be going back-to-back stints in the Huracan, and Windows Please will be trying to replicate his dominant Stint 1 performance in that number 42 white Lamborghini Huracan. In the Mercedes Mafia, Chief Wolfie is going to do another stint. VERT TJ111 is going back-to-back stints. So is GGA Spino, who pulled out a 10th in stint 2. And TBR Virtuoso is going to, who pulled off a 5th unexpectedly, is also going to go back-to-back in stints. Somehow Chief Wolfie is not in the same category as the other Mercedes. I hope they get that fixed. Apex Kemi is going 3 stints in a row in the Hatsune Miku pink, white, and black Audi. SFM Darkser is going to be in the number 26 Aston Martin Vantage breast cancer awareness machine. They have already raised, I think it was something like $15 in awareness donations in Stint 1. So yeah, keep an eye on that. PTG Chungus, or as I like to call him sometimes, Big Chungus, Big Chungus, Big Chungus. He's going to be taking over for Shredder in the 666 Castrol Oil Vantage. NWR Arkina will be back in the NWR McLaren. DMS Sleepy will be in the pink, white, and blue number 49 McLaren. Anzio will be back in the very colorful IARA McLaren. Figgy Boy will be in the Boys McLaren. And then you will have Postal Penguin in the Raven number 13 McLaren. And lastly, AFC Maverick will be taking over the Chevy C8 here. As we are currently standing by, waiting to get underway here for stint number 3 of 6. We've had some incidents, definitely some controversies, that will probably be looked at post-event. In the very, very end, while we were knocking out an ad break, and I was hoping people would jump into interviews, no one did. But second to last place in Stint 2 spun out in the final corner, coming to finish his race, and ended up stopping right on track in front of last place, which completely destroyed Chief Wolfie, who was last place. Destroyed Chief Wolfie's car and denied him the chance to actually finish his final lap. So there may end up being some penalties that come down from above due to how that turned out. Again, can't really confirm or deny that that will be the case, but that may be a possibility to consider here. Past that point, there's not really a lot else of note. The 666 machine has been one of the best when it comes to fighting with other drivers on track, but has had absolutely no ability to keep itself clean, keep the tires under it, or keep it on track. So, and it's been wrecked in 2 different stints. So, a underdog car that some people thought would be fighting for top 5 here is going to be nowhere near the front in this event. Lamborghini has won back-to-back, and they're likely to win 3 stints in a row. It's kind of out in their own zone today. Chevy is finished 2nd and 3rd, and they are going to be 2nd overall, but they're already about 40 seconds off from 2nd at this stage of the event. All right, and we're already ordering up the grid for the start. I like this. This is what I like to see. Hopefully there's no hiccups or anything that causes them to have to reload everything. So, as you can see here, it will be Windows Please on pole, AFC Maverick in the Chevy 2nd, 3 McLarens in a row, Postal Penguin, Figgy Boy, and NWR Arkina. Afterwards, then TJ in the McLaren, Chungus in the Aston Martin, Rexpertise in the Huracan, Anzio in the other McLaren, Darkser in the Vantage, Sleepy in the McLaren, Spino in the Merc, Deadpan and Antony in the Beamer. I'm sorry, Deadpan, then Chief Wolf, then Antoni, then Deadpan, then Chief Wolf, then Virtuoso, then Kimmy, then this one lad, and then Antoni. Looks like that is going to be how the rest of this works out. All 18 of our starters are still on track with us at this stage of the event here, as we are preparing to get underway for Stint 3 out of 6 here at Silverstone. All right, coming down as they go under the bridge, windows please, will accelerate and try to make it 3 stint wins in a row for the white Lamborghini. The Chevrolet of AFC Maverick runs right behind, but already that number 42 has opened up a visible gap on circuit over Maverick, as Postal Penguin tries to keep the other McLarens of Figgy Boy behind him. Arkina has already been passed by TJ, and Chief Wolfie has already fallen to last on track. Something has already gone wrong for Wolfie, it seems. Chaos going on in the upper midfield, but already Windows Please has about a second lead over second place on circuit now. They are side by side, Postal Penguin and Figgy Boy, neck and neck, and it looks like it's going to be Figgy who moves up into the third place. McLaren's third, fourth, and fifth on circuit right now. Arkina fires out with some incredible speed. We'll use that to pull up alongside Postal Penguin. Does he have enough speed to maybe parlay this into a move on Figgy here? Pulls up side by side into the braking zone, but he has to back out a little bit. Still has the ideal inside line. 4 cars all on top of each other. You basically throw a blanket over them. Who's gonna go where? Oh, wow, the boys, McLaren all off circuit. All 3 McLarens all on top of each other. That's the Raven that gets knocked way off circuit. He's gonna lose all these positions in the process. It's Figgy who's still third, Arkina fourth, and TJ in the Merc is now up to fifth. And the top 2 are absolutely gone from the rest of the field now. They are completely gone. Hopping over the curbs there is TJ's McLaren. But already the gap from first to third is over 3 seconds after just a lap on circuit. Calms down for just a bit here. Rex Pertis ends up in 6th, just behind TJ, which is roughly where he was on track before. Well, not on track, but with penalties where he was. at the end of Stint 2, just behind TJ. While he finished ahead of TJ on track, time penalties really delayed Rex Pertise and shunted him down the order and gave TJ 6th. This is SFM Darkser in that breast cancer awareness machine. That number 26 right now. Highest of the two Astons at the moment, as PTG Chungus has been dropping through the field. I guess dropping through the field is... No! Oh my goodness! Drama! Drama of all dramas! And Windows Please has lagged out! The winner in Stint 1 has lagged out! 2 laps in! You're only gonna see them complete a lap and a half! And the dominant team, the dominant driver, Windows Please, lags out! All of a sudden, the entire event is blown wide open! Are they gonna do a lobby restart? Oh, they're gonna do a full lobby restart. Well, alright. Well, full lobby restart then. I guess because it was the leader. Either that or because it was so early, they're gonna do a full lobby restart. Well, I guess while we do this, we'll knock out Twitch mandated ad break. We'll be back momentarily here at Silverstone. All right, loading onto the circuit for attempt number 2 at starting stint 3 here at Silverstone. I'm telling you, we're going to be here for 15 hours. It will be midnight or 11 at night, my time, when we're finally done here. Is Windows Please being shunted to the back of the grid now? I guess because he lagged out, Windows Please is getting shunted to the back of the grid for this restart. So, the first actual problem that team is going to have to deal with now. As we see the field come down through turns 3, 4, and 5. But yes, it looks like Windows Please is being put in the back of the grid, so they will have to fight their way up through the field. We will keep close eye on them to the best of our abilities here. And this means it will be the Chevy of AFZ Maverick, followed by a trio of McLarens at the head of this field. As they come down to the bridge, and as they go into the West Mirage Bridge, we are underway for attempt number 2 here at Silverstone. No big moves among the top 3 this time. In fact, it looks like the entirety of the top 3 stay nice and even for now. And now we start seeing moves. TJ gets to the inside of NWR Arkina and shuts the McLaren wide. And boy, the McLaren goes wide. Rex Ortiz very nearly loses it trying to get by him. And here comes SFM Darksurf forcing his way through now. Arkina slips all the way back to 9th. Starting in the top 5, and now they're all the way back to 9th behind the McLaren Avanzio. Maverick apparently has already opened up a gigantic gap, and Windows Please lags out again. This time they didn't even make it the entire lap. TJ and Postal Penguin are still at it. TJ muscles his way by Postal Penguin. Are they going to restart again? It was the same driver who lagged out even earlier this time. Are they going to restart the lobby a second time? Yes, it appears they will. We are never, ever, ever gonna get this thing going, are we? All right. Attempt number 3. Same driver has lagged out twice now. This will be the 3rd attempt at organizing the event. How many more attempts are we going to see them burn through here? Are they going to put Windows at the front of the field now? Because if they put windows in front of the field now, then I'm curious why he was shunted to the rear last time. Okay, so this is apparently the last attempt. If it happens again, I'm guessing they're not doing it again. But now, for whatever reason, they're not putting windows at the back of the grid. So, strange. And we're off once again now. Once again, it looks like it's going to be fighting as Arkina immediately shows weakness and is under threat. He's trying to put pressure on Figgy Boy, but he is already under threat from TJ right behind. And Windows Please has lagged out even earlier this time. He didn't even make it through the entire second sector of the track this time. So Windows Please lags out again. So it seems that the team that has opened up what had been a roughly a 40-second lead over second is now out of the event. And your leader now, AFZ Maverick, is in a fantastic position to pull off the victory here in the silver category. Figgy Boy holds station over Arkina, and while Arkina showed some weakness, he has done what he needs to. He is now fighting for a second, gonna try and go the long way around. Figgy Boy keeps him pinched down low. TJ runs right behind, watching this duo going at it. As they fire it off into the final chicane. They are 3 wide again. We've seen this song and dance before, and it's TJ who ends up worse off of it all. Here comes Postal Penguin and that Raven Machine. He'll muscle his way by TJ. McLaren's run, second, third, fourth, all over again. So now we are down to 17 drivers in our first dropout. Not even a full lap in is the driver and the team that had opened up a gigantic lead over the rest of the field. And now it is AFZ Maverick, your Chevrolet driver in the lead, who could be in position to start walking off with a victory here. Arkina is right underneath Figgy Boy's rear wing. Gives him a little bit of a push. Now he's going to try and look around the outside. You don't usually want to go side by side through here. Arkina handing the rear of that car out as he tries to turn in as aggressively as he can. Tucked up behind Figgy Boy still. Well, McLarens are out in force today. We have at least 4 McLarens in the top 10 right now. 3 of them in the top 4. What's happened to TJ? TJ all of a sudden seems to have dropped off. Can't tell if TJ may have been in an incident or no signs that he was in an incident, but TJ has suddenly dropped out of the top 12. He's all the way down to 14th now. And Chief Wolfie has fallen to last place, 17th on the circuit again. Already he's shaping up to try and muscle by AFC Anthony. He'll be on the outside of him. He'll try a crossover. Can't make the crossover work. Meanwhile, back in second, Maverick has already pulled off more than 2 seconds of a lead over this trio of McLarens right now as they rush their way through turn 2, now heading down to turns 3 and 4. And now in 5th place is Rexpertise, the lone remaining Lamborghini on track at this stage. Oh, and he's turned! Well, almost got turned. He got about 40 degrees sideways after contact there with Big Chungus. But Rexpertise holds station, and now Virtuoso will pull alongside the Aston Martin. Side by side, and it looks like 697 should be able to make that position without too much issue there. Meanwhile, the fight for second is still hot. Arkina runs right behind Figgy Boy. Now he looks to the inside, which will put him on the outside. Which of the 2 McLarens are going to go deeper under braking? It's Arkina! Boy, does Arkina go deep under braking! That should be enough! He's going to hold the lead after that! He didn't mess that up in the slightest! That was incredible! Figgy Boy was not expecting that at all! And all of a sudden, the gap between Figgy and Arkina opened up to over a second. That was incredible by Arkina. And now Arkina's going to try and run down AFZ Maverick, your leader. As TBR Virtuoso and Rexpertise are now ganging up on Postal Penguin. PTG Chungus is there as well. He wants to give some headaches to the McLarens. Lamborghini muscles the McLaren off circuit. The McLaren goes back. And Big Chungus says, thank you, I'll take both of those positions. And Big Chungus is up to 5th, but every time we have seen this 666 machine end up in the top 5 early on, they normally get shunted off circuit by another driver very shortly afterwards. So can Chungus keep someone else from turning that car off track, like what happened to SRD the last 2 times? SFM Darkster now muscles way by Postal Penguin. Penguin seems to have lost the plot a little bit, and as more importantly, he now has engine damage as well. And losing your engine so early in the bit is so difficult because everyone is so tight. It's going to be so much harder to actually do anything when you're down on power and everyone is there and everyone has the power to just dive on you. You can't just focus on turning laps and try to find something else. You're just going to hemorrhage time. So Postal Penguin, who started in the top 5, rapidly dropping through the field with engine damage early on. And NWR Arkina is now 2 seconds, within 2 seconds of AFC Maverick. We may have a McLaren now trying to go for the stint win here at Silverstone. Top 16 are all within about 13 seconds of each other, and we've barely completed 3 full racing laps right now. Virtuoso, who pulled off the top 5 in the prior stint, runs in 4th as closing up on Figgy Boy. So another one of the boys' entrants going for it. He's got the move to the inside of Figgy Boy. Figgy Boy backs off early, I don't know what's wrong with Figgy Boy, but he has just let Virtuoso go. He is not putting the fight to that Mercedes right now. So while McLaren started second, third, and fourth, now there's only one McLaren in the top three. Granted, that McLaren does seem to be the fastest driver on track right now, but Figgy Boy is starting to lose positions. And we only have 4 McLarens in the top 10, but the situation between them is massively different. Lambo, Aston, all trying to go 3 wide through there in turn 5, and Chungus backs out of it. So now, for the first time, it is going to be the breast cancer awareness Aston that is going to be the highest running of the 2 Astons. It seems like Chungus is not nearly as comfortable with the car as Darkser is. Virtuoso holding on to third, but it looks like Figgy Boy may have stopped the bleeding for the moment. He runs in the draft of the McLaren. NWR Arkina is slowly trying to run down on AFZ Maverick at the head of this field. About a half-second gap between them. Draft will work out in Figgy's favor. He used that to close in. But the boys have their cars in third, fourth, and fifth on track. Now we see Darkser and Chungus closing up on Rexpertise. Aston versus Lamborghini. We saw this fight throughout a good chunk of Stint 2, and he hooked him! Darkser hooks Rexpertise under braking! Darkser hooks Rexpertise, and Darkser goes off circuit. In sympathy, Darkser says, hey, that was no good. I'm not going to take that. And he pulls off circuit, but look at all this chaos it causes in the process. That was Kimmy. Kimmy is knocked off circuit as well as those two tried to merge onto the circuit. And a bunch of drivers who are running near the front all have their days completely derailed now. Darkser hooked Rexpertise. They both went off. Both of them stopped. Darkser said, look, I'm not going to take that from you. But when they merged back onto the circuit, they ended up getting into Kimmy, and Kimmy and Rexpertise fell even farther down the grid. So now, it's Big Chungus in fifth place, and Anzio is now second highest of all the McLarens. Dramatic circumstances and twists and turns here in Stint 3. From the dominant team lagging out before they even get halfway around the circuit, to a Chevrolet leading, to maybe an upcoming fight for the lead, to 3 of our top contenders all going off circuit and falling down the grid, to Anzio and Spino running in 6th and 7th, the highest positions they have been at all day long. A reminder, Postal Penguin, another dramatic thing there, he has engine damage, and this engine damage is getting worse. He's on 5% engine damage. It's getting worse for him, yet he's still somehow top 10 despite how crippling that level of engine damage is. You can just see how TJ just walks by Postal Penguin with no issue there. And Postal Penguin has had enough. He's pitting. He's done with it. Can't take it anymore. But at the front of the field, here comes the fight for the lead. Maverick has it, but Arkina wants it. Eight tenths between the two of them right now. Now 6 tenths. Arkina's close enough to get a draft off of that Chevrolet. If these two fight long enough, will it give Virtuoso a chance to close in on them? Catching him is one thing, passing is another. But we've seen that the McLarens are able to outrun the Chevrolets, especially once the tires start falling off and the fuel load burns off. Now it's within 4/10. Now a third of a second. About a quarter as they head under braking going into Maggots and Beckett's. Neither of them really trying to send it too aggressively for the moment. You don't want to spend too much time fighting between each other and run the risk of Virtuoso coming up, but it doesn't matter. Arkina has the run out of Beckett's. It's a drag race. He's got the outside line. If he goes deep enough, he might be able to pinch the Chevy off. They make a little bit of contact. Arkina gets sideways under braking, and Maverick holds onto the spot for just a little longer, but the fight for the lead and what could be the overall event win is on. Four-tenths off now. Virtuoso now within 4 seconds of the top two. Arkina has a good run, setting up for what could potentially be a dive. The Chevrolet driver Maverick defends the inside. So Arkina's going to look to the outside. Under braking. Chevy does a decent job defending. Arkina, can he try and cross over? No, the Chevy backs off and holds Arkina up just a bit. Big sliding moment coming out of that 180-degree sweeper there. Now Arkina tucks up behind. Now he's going to look to the outside. You don't want to go side by side in this corner if you can help it. Arkina really slides the rear of that car out. Stays behind Maverick for a bit longer. And Virtuoso is slowly closing in on this duo as they continue to jockey the lead position between the two of them. Through Maggots and Beckett's, this is where Arkina had a great run on Maverick last time. Can he replicate it this time? He did. He's not as close, but he's got another good run out of the S's. Now into the most ideal overtaking spot. Arkina looks to the outside. Maverick takes kind of a middling line. Arkina can't get alongside in the corner. Does he try to go the outside, try to pinch the Chevy off under braking? That's what he's going to do. He goes deep. The Chevy holds station. Now Virtuoso is within 3 seconds of our leaders. On to our 9th lap now. Maverick went wide. Boy, did Maverick go wide. Here comes Arkina. Arkina tries to get the crossover. He's got to run. Pulls up, nose right behind him. Now he's going to try and look to the inside. He's got to run. He's on the outside. Pulls in line behind the Chevy. The Chevy's going to defend the inside. Arkina's going to go back to the outside again. Virtuoso now within 2.5 seconds. The Chevy does a good job still defending the line. He may have blown turn 3, but Arkina was not in a position to capitalize. Again, Arkina is wide, coming out of that big sweeping corner. All right, they won't go side by side through here this time. Does Arkina try to go for a lunge? He's setting up for a lunge. Now he backs out. He thinks better of it. He'd rather go for the move coming onto the straight than going into Maggots and Beckett's. You don't want to run the risk of the Chevy going off, then merging back on and taking both of you off circuit. He's got about 4/10 behind. Not as good of a run out this time. Virtuoso now just 2 seconds back from this duo. He's got the draft. He tries to close in under braking. Virtuoso within 2 seconds. Oh, big sideways moment by the Chevrolet. Got onto the curbs, and the car got really badly unsettled there. It backed him up into Arkina, and Arkina's backed up as well. Virtuoso now within a second and a half of our top two. Or not. Ticker lied to me. Maverick being very defensive here on the straight. Arkina again is going to commit to the outside. But Maverick does a good job covering off any kind of move that Arkina would try. The thing is that every time Maverick does that to Arkina, they both bleed off about a tenth or 2/10 to Virtuoso. This time Arkina didn't slide nearly as much coming out of there. So now he's tucked up right behind the rear wing of the Chevy. The Chevy's going to defend the inside. Arkina's going to go to the outside, then back out. He's going to try the crossover on exit. This might be it, folks. Drag race. McLaren, Chevrolet, down the straight on the run down to Maggots and Beckett's, and the Chevy is not going to push the issue. Arkina to the lead. Now the Chevy, though, is going to have the draft, so the Chevy will have potentially a higher top end coming into the ideal overtaking zone. Does Maverick go for a move? Does he go for a lunge? He's setting up. He's thought of it. Boy, did he think of it, but he is not willing to commit. He's still right behind Arkina, though. Arkina, how aggressively does he defend? Here comes Maverick. He goes to the inside, but backs out of it. Does not want to make contact. Virtuoso now within a second and a quarter of our top two. But I think Arkina might be fast enough. If Maverick doesn't make a big dive into turn 4, I think what may happen is that Virtuoso may get stuck fighting with Maverick, and Arkina will rush off into the distance with this Stint lead. Maverick's losing Arkina now. Seems like the Chevrolet, as it's burned off the best of its tires, is now hemorrhaging time. The gap is rapidly opening between the two of them. I think that might be the fight for the Stint win over. Nothing I've seen thus far has suggested that the Mercedes have anything for the McLarens. It has been the McLarens and the Lamborghinis that have been the best cars under this balancing setup. And the NWR team has been the team that has probably been one of, if not the best, at setting up the McLarens. Still, Maverick is not done yet, or he... If he hit the dirt, it was by the smallest margin, but he will have lost a significant amount of time. He needs to get within the draft of Arkina to try and close back in. Virtuoso has actually bled off just a little bit of time to this duo in the first half of this lap. He's still within half a second of Arkina, now within 4/10, now within a third of a second. Oh, he closed in. Boy, he got the nose there. He put some pressure on Maverick there. But Maverick had such a better run on the exit, although he dropped the tire into the dirt and kind of killed some of it. All of a sudden, Virtuoso is now within drafting range of the Chevrolet. Around the bend, and now rushing down to the final chicane again. Maverick not close enough to make a big dive this time. That Chevy is just not happy going over the curbs, although Arkina missed the apex a bit. So Maverick's hopes are still alive. Virtuoso now within 3/4 of a second of the lead. Well, no, it was just within a second of the lead. But Maverick needs to go for a move, because the McLarens are so much better when the tires are falling off and the fuel loads burns off. The Chevys have fantastic single lap pace. They are fantastic when the tires are fresh. But as the tires go away, the Chevys are just awful. It's that way in everything. It's that way in all GT3 category racing we have seen. It's just a natural disadvantage that the Chevys have. You can't BOP that advantage away. Maverick has to be aggressive and has to go for the position. He's within a third of a second of Arkina. Big slide there. He's going to bleed off a huge chunk of time in the process. Still has the draft on Arkina. Top three run nose to tail as they go through Maggots and Beckett's again. Big thing, though, is Virtuoso. If Virtuoso starts fighting with Maverick and it takes him a long time to get by the Chevy, Arkina's going to rush away into the distance. Maverick's thinking of making a big dive, but is not willing to commit to it. Oh, a bit of a slide from Arkina. Here comes Maverick. He's right there to the rear wing of the McLaren. Virtuoso runs just behind both of them. Virtuoso really backing up the corners. Oh, he's got to run. He's got to run on Maverick. Maverick tripped on the extreme outside. And he's by. He's through. Virtuoso clears Maverick for now. And now, does Virtuoso have anything for Arkina? There's been nothing thus far today to suggest that the Mercedes have anything for the McLarens. But is Virtuoso going to say that's not the case? Does Virtuoso have something for Arkina now? Within half a second, as they come onto the straight. Oh, but that McLaren is so much better on acceleration. The Merc's going to lose time through here in the braking zone. Oh no, he actually gained a little bit apparently. And loses it now. Yeah, the gap's already now opened up to about half a second. Yeah, the Mercedes just do not have anything to answer to the McLarens. The McLarens have a ridiculous advantage in this event. It's ironic because it's the same thing that's happening in the P1R SEC events as well, is that the McLarens are very well balanced from the start to the end of the stint. They don't take forever to come to life. They are very well balanced from the entire stint. As long as you don't have Dodge GT3 cars, which this event does not have a Dodge, then that means that the McLaren by default is going to destroy everything else near the very end of the tire life. Now, somehow that didn't apply to the Lamborghinis. The Lamborghinis have been pretty much the match of the McLarens today, but their only good Lamborghini has already dropped out before even completing a full lap, and that lead McLaren of Arkina is going to be able to nurse this advantage as long as he wants, I imagine. I will give Virtuoso full credit for hanging on to the back of Arkina, but it is very visually obvious that the Mercedes has nothing that it can do to put a fight against that McLaren. The gap now opens up to about 6/10. The draft helps Virtuoso close some of it down, but he can't get close enough to even try to get alongside that McLaren. Arkina misses turn 3 just a bit, keeps the gap a little bit close, just a bit there. But the Mercedes takes so long to get up to speed and it's so slow through some of these corners that he loses anything that Arkina makes a mistake on. Virtuoso throws that away just because the car does not have the cornering capability and or the initial acceleration. If anything, Virtuoso is going to have to deal with AFC Maverick for second because Arkina is scooting away. Especially now that Arkina is not really being pressured nearly as much, we're likely going to see Arkina's mistakes become rarer and much smaller, and Postal Penguin is already making their second pit stop of the day. That car was as high up in the top 3, started in the top 4. But it has gone from bad to worse for Postal Penguin. And we're expecting to see drivers start making their very first pit stops anytime on this lap here. Virtuoso capitalizing just a little bit as Arkina dealing with some tire fall off. And using the draft, he's able to stay in touch, but he's not in a position to make a move. He needs Arkina to have a big twitch, a big slide off circuit if he wants to go for something. Does he go for a dive in the braking zone? No, he backs out. He's not going to go for anything crazy. Again, with the top Lamborghini out, these three teams are fighting for not just a stint win, but they are fighting for the event win here in the silver category. Anzio pits at the end of lap 14 now. These drivers surely don't have the tires to go more than one more lap. Yeah, 55% right now for the McLaren for Virtuoso, who is right behind. 54. Oh, small tire advantage for the Merc. That could get interesting. Maverick, 55%. So he also has a very tiny tire advantage. And then way back here, Biggie Boy, 54. Okay, so it looks like Arkina may have pushed their tires a little more aggressively than they wanted, but they still have the lead right now, and it does look like they still have the overall advantage. They're doing a good job keeping Virtuoso behind. Virtuoso has the draft on Arkina as they come onto the straight. The old start-finish straight. Arkina hangs the rear of that car out. Gap is back to within a third of a second. All of a sudden, now a quarter of a second. Heavy under the brakes. The Merc has a slight tire advantage, but the McLaren handles worn tires incredibly well. Coming on to the back straightaway. The most important braking zone, the most important overtaking zone on circuit. Does the Mercedes go for the move? He looks to the outside. He's going to go deep. He's trying to pitch the McLaren off. Side by side, and they're all going to pit. Every one of them pits, and Virtuoso actually backs out of it. Virtuoso backed out. That's going to probably be all it takes to give the lead back to Arkina as they come out, because Virtuoso entered the pits at a much, much slower rate of speed. Okay, so who is not pitting this time by? It would just be Anzio, who pitted on the prior circuit. Yeah, it looks like literally everyone else is pitting at the same time. Anzio is the only one pitting on a different lap. So what of our leaders? We are just about guaranteed it's going to be Arkina who comes out with the lead. Is Maverick in second and Virtuoso in third. But immediately Maverick is under threat from Virtuoso. If those two spend too much time fighting, Arkina is going to run off into the distance. They're still side by side. Oh, and they make some door-banging contact, and Arkina is already out of draft range. That's it. That will be Stint over more than likely. Unless Arkina has a big mistake, Arkina is likely going to run off into the distance. This is now going to be the fight for second, I would imagine, to the end here. Already the gap is over a second and a quarter from first to second. That move, that decision by Virtuoso to try and go the long way around Arkina, going through the final corner before they pit, seemed to be the move. That will likely be the move that ends up deciding the rest of this stint for the top 3 spots. That will be the one, the single move that decides the rest of this stint for the podium positions. So now Maverick gets to the inside of Virtuoso. The Chevy has some incredible top end, and when the tires are fresh, the Chevy is among the best of them. And immediately he goes by the Mercedes with no issue whatsoever. But Arkina is gone into the distance. And despite going off circuit earlier, SFM Darkser has recovered all the way up to the 4th position on track. Incredible stuff by Darkser here to have pulled that off. And the other Aston of PTG Chungus is running 5th. This is the highest we have seen one of the Astons run late. Well, 17 laps in a 57 lap race is not late, but late in the event. As in the last 2 stints, that 666 Aston got turned and spun off circuit. Now, Chungus seems to have the luck and the fortune and the respect from the other drivers to not get hooked and turned off track. And we're seeing where the Aston's actual performance may actually lie. Then you have Figgy Boy, who is the second highest of the McLarens right now, followed by TJ in the Mercedes and GGA Spino, who is in another Mercedes. Then you get the one lad and Anzio and another pair of McLarens. So we still have 4 McLarens in the top 10 positions right now. After that is Rexpertise, the only remaining Lamborghini, but is just not having a good run of it this time by. Then it is Apex Kimmy, and the Audi could be higher, but was involved in the mess with Rexpertise and Darkser. And while Darkser has had the speed to rush back up to the field, Rexpertise and Kimmy have not. Then you have AFZ Anthony in the 222 Logitech. Then it's DMS Sleepy here in the other McLaren, the last McLaren, the only McLaren not in the top 10. Then it's Deadpan X7. In the last of the BMWs, I'm sorry, it's Postal Penguin who's actually the last of the McLarens. I got that wrong, I apologize. Then you have Chief Wolf running last on circuit right now. So Postal Penguin's in a McLaren. Penguin's in a McLaren. Sleepy's in a McLaren. Anzio's in a McLaren. One lad's in a McLaren. Figgy's in a McLaren. And so we have 6 McLarens. Okay. TJ and Figgy Boy having a little bit of a spat right now as they go through the chicane. Looks like for the moment, Figgy has it. So while the fight for the win is over, and what could be the fight for the overall event win is still on, it's going to come down to how much does Arkina close down on AFZ Maverick's time gap that they built up over the first 2 stints. Because that NWR McLaren was not the McLaren. I do not believe that was the McLaren that finished second in stint 2. Onto the old start-finish straightaway once again. Again, the Chevys are very, very good when the tires are fresh. But the Chevys have some of the worst fall-off in pace once those tires start going away. They are great in qualifying. They are great on fresh tires. But as those tires go off, I imagine Virtuoso is going to start putting the screws to Maverick and will likely end up back ahead of him for a position. It may not take nearly as long as we were thinking either. Already he's nose to tail. Now the Mercedes looks to the outside. How deep do you go under braking? Not deep enough to really put the true screws to Maverick. Big runs right behind TJ. Virtuoso now seems to be bleeding off time to Maverick right now, as this duo becomes the next most active battle on track. Field is really starting to spread out top to bottom now. While on track, you still have everyone from about 5th to 11th all on top of each other in a big line, on the map at least. Realistically on circuit, there are some respectable gaps between them. It really is just going to come down to Fig versus TJ if the two of them start getting side by side again going forward here. Gap from first to second now over 3 seconds. So yeah, Arkina is going to run off with this as long as he doesn't damage his engine or anything else like that happens. Seems like this fight might be dissolving as well. I think everyone's kind of settling in to their positions on track. I think just about everyone has kind of figured out where they actually are, what their actual pace is in relation to everyone else on the circuit. Right where credit is due, GTA Spino got that car as high up as top 6 and 7. He is starting to drop down the field now as the properly faster cars are catching him and nipping him slowly but surely. But still, Spino got himself way high up the grid in that number 458 Mercedes. Ooh, nice crossover move. I won't be able to complete it because of what the following corner is, but that's still very well executed, and it will have a bit of a drag race going forward. Oh, okay, this one lad actually backs out of it just a bit. He says, hey, look, I'm not going to try and go for anything crazy here. Picks up behind, alongside. Does he try and go for a dive? Not this time, I don't think. No, he'll stay behind for now. He wants to wait a bit for a less crazy part of the track to go for the move. The fight for third, kicking up again. The Chevy's tires are now starting to fall off all over again. And the Mercedes is coming back, side by side as they go through the chicane. Chevy trapped on the outside, struggling to put the power down as he goes over the curbs. Oh, but the Mercedes hops over the sausage curb and knocks the Chevy, gets his tires into the dirt there, and Virtuoso goes into second. That will likely be seen as controversial, but Virtuoso did hop those red sausage curbs on the inside, and that is what knocked him into Maverick, and in turn knocked Maverick 2 tires into the dirt there. But that will likely be that position decided on track. Now, Maverick still has a good top end. He'll be able to use that to keep up with the Mercedes down the straightaways, but he's just going to continue to bleed off time in the corners here. Mind you, the Merc has been doing a better job saving tires than what the Chevy has been able to do. Arkina now more than 4 seconds ahead of this duo. The gap continues to open, but it is not opening very fast. Nothing compared to what we saw in Stint 1. One lad finally gets by Spino. Going around the outside this time. Oh, no, it's not over yet. Now it's over. The next driver Spino will have to deal with will be Anzio. Mind you, Anzio is on a slightly alternate pit stop strategy. He pitted 1 lap earlier than everyone else on the first round of stops, so his tires are a little bit more warm, but he is legitimately holding on to a top 10 position on merit. He is also trying to keep the Lamborghini of Rex Bertice behind. Reminder, Rex Bertice went off in that incident with Darkser. Gets right under the rear wing of that McLaren. Not able to make the move stick, though. Anzio holds station. Rex Bertice looks to the outside. Can't really make anything of it there. Here comes Rex Bertice now. He's got to the inside, but Anzio shuts the door. And they're just about to catch Spino. Rex Bertice looks to the outside again. Anzio shuts the door. Now through turn 1 and into turn 2. Anzio's going to start gaining a draft off of Spino's Mercedes here. Oh, here comes the move. Big dive bomb by Rex. And he'll clear the McLaren. That's one McLaren shunted out of the top 10. And now Rex starts looking at Spino once more. Ooh, that got a little bit argy-bargy there. But Rex Ortiz does clear Spino in a single corner. So Rex is now finally making his way back up the grid, back up through the field now. TJ is starting to close down on PTG Chungus. This is a fight we've seen before. Gap from first to second now up to 5 seconds here. We're going to go ahead and right on board for a full flying lap with VER TTJ here around Silverstone. When we come back, we'll likely see the field starting to make their second round of pit stops here in stage 3 of the Silverstone 2,000 kilometer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Silverstone as VER TTJ 111 has cracked into the top half of the field, roughly not quite halfway through this event here. PTG Chungus seems to have just kind of fallen off a cliff recently. No engine damage, but he just seems to have lost a significant amount of pace just now. The gap between Arkina and Virtuoso is now over 5.5 seconds. The gap between Arkina and Maverick is over 6.5 seconds. So, yeah, that NWR team is going to have a fantastic shot at really closing the gap down. A pair of McLarens fighting here for 7th and 8th. This is Figgy Boy and One Lad neck and neck as they head around now. The big 180 sweeper. One Lad gets a little bit sideways there. Goes a little wide, but he does have the draft off of the boys McLaren here. Down the straight and firing it off through the following corner. We're expecting to see drivers start making their next round of Oh, that was a move! That was a big move! And that was not a move that was gonna ever work out! I don't know why one lad was thinking that move was gonna work. He was not in a position to make that dive work, but he went for it, and that did not work out for him. There's no damage on the car, but I imagine he'll probably end up with some penalties off of that. 1.4 seconds of penalties off of that alone. Mein Gott. Also, speaking of penalties, DMS Sleepy already has 4 seconds worth of penalties. And then third place, AFC Maverick, already has more than 4 seconds worth of penalties. So, yikes. Chief Wolfie at risk of going a lap down by about the event's halfway point now. Could be around lap 28 or so, basically when the leaders are making, or basically when the entire field is making their second stops. Everyone with the exception of Anzio pitted on lap 15, so we're expecting almost everyone to pit around lap 29 in this event. Just about nose to tail between those two. Somehow, despite making that big, silly, dumb move about a lap ago, this one lad has honestly closed the gap right back down on Figgy Boy. Now, granted, penalties are not working out in the one lad's favor, but he does seem to have enough pace to keep up with Figgy Boy right now. First place now 6.5 seconds ahead of second, and 7.5 ahead of third. So we're in a little bit of a calmer stage as we're approaching the halfway point. Yeah, these two seem to actually be legitimately closing in on Chungus slowly but surely. So yeah, whatever is causing Chungus to really hemorrhage time here is not exactly getting any better. Also, Rex Vertiz is about to catch and start fighting with this duo as well. He is in a position where in some parts of the circuit, he might be able to get a bit of a draft off of them. He's well clear of the fight between Spino and Anzio. That fight still is running as well. Just about nose to tail. No crazy moves from one lad this lap either. But he is still right there behind Figgy. Let's go ahead and look at the tire life. Figgy is at 41%. He has also got a small amount of engine damage. One lad is at 41%, 41.1%. So lad's doing a little bit better with tires and has a little bit less engine damage. It's a drag race. Dead heat into the most important braking zone. And one lad comes down on Figgy Boy. It's going to slow both of them down significantly. Now he has the inside coming into the chicane. Who goes deeper under braking? It's one lad, and he slides the car in front of Figgy Boy. Figgy trying to set up for a crossover. He's back to the inside. He hits the curb. One lad goes wide so not to get shunted off into the dirt. So one lap gets by Figgy Boy, but they both lost so much time that now Rexpertise is right behind both of them. So Rexpertise is going to have a chance to start giving Figgy Boy a little bit of struggle here. Watches the entire field now. Comes through. Maggots and Beckett's. And that was basically the entire field down to 12th. And as you can see, Rexpertise has muscled his way by Figgy Boy at this stage of the event. We're anticipating to see drivers such as Anzio pitting this lap potentially. And no, Anzio does not pit on this circuit. So Anzio's forcing the tires to go a little bit farther so he can try to get on sequence with everyone else on the pit stops right now. Most of the battles on circuit have now dissolved. Everyone seems to have settled into where their legitimate positions are. There's not a lot of crazy up in the air scenarios when it comes to everybody's tire life or tire stress or anything like that. The only kind of weird one is Postal Penguin, who has already made his third stop. He took engine damage early, ran about 2 laps with it, said, screw this, I can't deal with this, pitted, and then pitted again very shortly afterwards. So we're not really sure what the problem with Penguin was, but whatever it is, he did that, then pitted. He's basically been answering everyone else on pit stop, so he's basically an entire pit stop roughly behind the rest of the field, and that is why he is a lap down. So is Chief Wolfie, but Wolfie has just been legitimately off pace. That car has been legitimately off pace pretty much all event long today. Rexpertise has now muscled his way by Figgy Boy. So the Lamborghini coming to life as it's muscling its way by some of the midfield McLarens. Next driver he'll have to deal with would be this one lad. So it seems like the top 4 spots are pretty much solidified. While Maverick has been able to fight with Virtuoso earlier in the event, the Chevrolet just bleeds off so much time as the tires fall off. The gap between second and third is almost 2 full seconds right now. And Anzio comes in now on lap 29. So he's able to go about 15 laps this time by. So he should be okay on tires to the end. He'll have a very slight tire disadvantage to the end of the race, but it's not going to be something that's going to completely derail him. We're likely going to see the entire field pit this time by. Arkina will easily maintain his lead over Virtuoso. The interesting thing is going to really be every position from 5th on back, although frankly, with the way that TJ has been gradually opening the gap between himself and Chungus, that might not even be anything of note. It may be more of a question between Chungus and this one lad, as Chungus has continued to gradually bleed off time as we go deeper into the stint. It's not like Chungus is dealing with engine damage. He's just been legitimately bleeding off time and just getting much, much slower on this set of tires this time by. Deadpan and Sleepy actually went ahead and pitted this time by. But those two drivers are both likely to be a lap down, I would imagine, by the end of this race, just based off of the general pace thus far. All right, Arkina comes into the pits, and we anticipate everyone else will be joining shortly. Postal Penguin will probably stay out because they just pitted about 2 or 3 laps ago. So Penguin will briefly, at least, end up back on the lead lap, but realistically, they're not going to stay there. And no, Maverick is staying out an extra lap. What is going on there? Maverick is pushing the tires a lot farther than anticipated. Is he even going to have the fuel to make it all the way? Well, he has a little bit of engine damage. That's not going to help. But is he going to have the fuel to make it around? His lap time is going to be awful. But is he going to have the fuel to make it around? Got 4% in the tank. And the Chevys are very, very gas-hungry vehicles. And this is the car that, with Windows Please lagging out on lap 1, this is the car that should be in the overall event lead. Is this a big risk that they are taking here? Looks like Arkina comes out in second, but TJ stayed out as well. Not sure why you would stay out if you don't absolutely need to, but I mean, I guess if you want to try and maybe make your final stop short fill. Again, I don't know if Maverick will have the fuel. He's at 2.0% right now, about halfway through. Is Maverick going to have the fuel to make it back to pit lane? He does. He is on clean track right now, so that should help him a bit. While as opposed, Virtuoso, the Mercedes that was ahead of him, is now going to have to deal with another Mercedes in the form of TJ. But again, that may be of no matter if Maverick ends up running out of fuel. Also, this will be the second time that Maverick has actually led in the event today. Will he have the fuel to make it? 0.3, 0.2, 0.1. He's out! He had enough speed to coast it into the pits, but that was much closer than I think he needed to make it. Now, I'll give him credit. At least he gave us something to talk about. So now the question is, where is he going to end up in relation to this driver here, Virtuoso, TJ Pitts? So Virtuoso did not catch TJ, so he was not held up by the other Mercedes. So where is Virtuoso going to be in relation to Maverick? Virtuoso basically pitted a lap earlier than Maverick here. Maverick already out of pit lane. Oh, no. Wow, that went very poorly. That gap is now 2.5 seconds. So Maverick stayed out for an extra lap, hoping it would help him. While he does have a tire advantage, now he is 3 seconds behind Virtuoso. He's lost an entire extra second on that strat. And while he'll have a bit of a tire advantage, it's only going to last him for about 6 or 7 laps. And then almost immediately, he's going to start falling off again. I think Maverick may have just shot his stint in the foot. I think that's going to guarantee him 3rd place unless time penalties have a massive impact on how the rest of this goes. Looking at the time penalties right now, Maverick with over 4 seconds of time penalties. Virtuoso not yet at 2.5. I think that's basically going to derail Maverick's run here in stint 3. I think 3rd is still good, but he is going to just lose so much time to both Virtuoso and Arkina at this stage of the event. Bit of a fight going on here between Chungus and this one lad. One lad was catching Chungus before the pit stops, and now has caught him again afterwards. So with everyone in the field now having completed their 2nd pit stop of the stint, we're anticipating the most drivers in the MX3. We're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch mandated ad break. We will right on board with the McLaren of this one lad as he stalks the Aston Martin of PTG Chungus here around Silverstone in VER Silverstone 2,000 kilometer endurance. We'll be back momentarily here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Silverstone. A little bit more than 2/3 of the way through here. Not quite 2/3 of the way through. We're almost there. We're almost at 2/3 of the way through. Most of the field seems to have resolved where they are going to be running to the end, with the exception of this little duo here. This one lad has been getting very punchy, has been fighting his way up through the grid. He is currently the second highest of all McLarens on track. Ooh, a little bit of a hip check from the Aston there. Little bit different fight going on way farther down the grid real quickly. Some of the drivers in the back that we've not spent a lot of time looking at. DMS Sleepy runs in 13th in a McLaren with AFZ Anthony in the Logitech BMW going at it for 13th and 14th right now. Gap seems to be gradually open up. Both of the BMWs in this stint, it seems like a return to stint 1. Both of the BMWs are on track to potentially go a lap down by the end of this event. Postal Penguin, for the moment, is still on the lead lap somehow. Granted, he will eventually pit, and he's not had quite the pace of our leader, Arkina, but it's been a rough time for Penguin. Keith Wolfie at this point is still the only driver who has gone a lap down at any point in this event. Again, we look at this little fight going on between Chungus and this one lad, and as they continue to fight, they threaten to drag Rexpertise into the battle as well. As Rexpertise muscles his way by the lap traffic of Keith Wolfie here. One lad hangs the rear of that McLaren out. Not quite as much as Arkino was doing it earlier, but he definitely hangs the rear end out through there, through that corner. I think one lad's learned from his lesson. I don't think he's going to go for any Herculean dives going into Maggots and Beckett's anymore. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the case at least. Down the back straight into the most important overtaking zone. Does one lad have a dive in him? He does. He's going to dive to the inside. Chungus will give him plenty of room. Doesn't even put a serious fight up. The McLaren clears the Aston. Now, does the Aston try a counter dive? Well, it looks to the outside, but is not able to do it. So one lad now moves his way up into 6th position on track. So while one McLaren leads, one lad seems to be the only other McLaren really having a great time out here. You have to go all the way back to Figgy Boy for another McLaren that's doing anything close to decent here. But even then, Figgy Boy kind of got spooked by one lad and fell behind one lad, Chungus, and Rexpertise. And it's been a significant amount of time just trying to hang on to the tail end of Rexpertise's car since then. And it looks like Deadpan has slipped by Anthony, so something's gone wrong with Anthony. Oh, he's got engine damage. That would explain it. Yeah, that will explain it. That will do it. So that will likely shunt Anthony into 15th. I think he's far enough ahead of Postal Penguin that he shouldn't have to worry about falling worse than 15th. But still, that engine damage will likely be enough to lock Anthony into 15th place here in this stint. Chungus still runs in one lad's tire tracks for the moment. And as this is going on, there is another potential fight we might want to be talking about, and that is the potential battle that we may see eventually between AFZ Maverick and SFM Darkser. As this has gone on, the gap between Maverick and Darkser continues to slowly close down. Now, Maverick should have a very slight tire advantage, but with how bad the Chevy is on tires, I don't really think that's going to mean much. I think we may see Darkser catch Maverick in the last few laps here. It might not even be the last few laps. He might catch him right after everyone makes their third and final pit stop in this event today. This is a fight going on farther back for 10th and 11th. Kimmy and Spino. Spino had gotten his way all the way up into the top 6 at one point. And Kimmy had been up there similarly, but Kimmy was involved in that instant between Darkser and Rexpertise. So while Spino was way high up, but his pace has caused him to naturally fall downward through the grid, Kimmy had some pace. I'm not going to tell you he would be at top 5 legitimately, but he had some pace, got shunted down the grid, and now he's trying to use his pace to fight his way up through the field. So while Spino has been trying to stop the bleeding falling backwards, Kimmy, the exact opposite, has been trying to use his pace to move his way upwards, and then just a little bit behind them is Anzio, who is roughly where I think he should be on track. About 10th or 12th is where Anzio's legitimate pace has been. Kimmy gets to the inside of Spino at the end of the Sector 1 to Sector 2 straightaway. Now to the 180-degree sweeper. And it looks like the Audi has the position without issue. That's a very simple cut and dry move, and Kimmy moves up into the 10th spot on track. One lad has pulled out about a 1 second gap on Chungus now. So that fight seems to be done. Spino was just close enough to get a draft off of this Audi here in this fight for 10th. Closing the gap, reeling him back in down the straight. Nothing quite yet. He may just legitimately not have anything for him. Gap between the top two has stabilized at about 8 to 9 seconds. It does still open up, but it is opening here or there in very small amounts. Arkina is not absolutely destroying Virtuoso, while Arkina's victory in the Stint is all but assured, barring something like engine damage. Arkina more than likely is going to be winning this by about, I think, 11 seconds. 11 to 12 seconds will be the advantage they win this event by, this Stint by, and will help drag the NWR team into contention. The big thing, though, is that Maverick is just gradually hemorrhaging time because these Chevys are just awful on tire management. He is slipping back into Darkster's grasp. Darkster is within 2 seconds of Maverick right now. And the gap only continues to get tighter and tighter between them. So we're going to go ahead and ride on board for a lap with SFM Darkster for a flying onboard lap and give you an idea what a flying lap looks like from his perspective in what is currently the best performing Aston Martin in that breast cancer awareness machine, as they are doing their own little promotion. But we're going to ride on board silently for a lap on board with them, see what they can do to close the gap between themselves and Maverick here at Silverstone. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Silverstone as we watch SFM Darkster continue to slowly close the gap down between himself and AFZ Maverick for what would be the third and final spot on the podium. And if he pulls this overtake off, it could be huge because it could show that that Chevrolet of Maverick might end up losing the overall event lead. Windows Please's car, that team had won the first two stints, had something like 40 seconds of a lead over the Chevy. But they've retired. The Chevy inherited the overall event lead. However, Arkina's team... One second. Excuse me. Arkina's team has absolutely performed fantastically and is opening up the gap on Maverick as this is going on. There is a very distinct possibility that Maverick is going to either lose... is going to see that Chevy team lose the overall lead, or at least lose the lead, or at least lose the majority of their overall lead. Again, this is not a distance. This is not a event where you run for a certain amount of time, you calculate the distance. This is you run a certain amount of distance, and whoever has the least amount of time to complete the distance wins. With Windows Please DNFing in lap 1 of this event, that's just not going to... That team is, for all intents and purposes, out of contention. They have been the only dropout here in Stint 3. So it's just going to come down to what Maverick's team can do going forward. I just do not know. I don't think that Chevy has the tire life to really be a serious contender going forward, especially with the way that the McLarens just do not seem to burn off and fall off in tire life. The NWR McLaren team is just going to continue to get better and better as this goes on. All the battles on track seem to be gone. It's literally just this one. Everyone else seems to have like a second or so between them and the next driver on track. We are expecting pit stops, the final round of pit stops in this stint, in about 5 minutes time. Might be a little less, but we are expecting about 5 minutes here. It's about nose to tail between this duo. Remember, the Chevy went and stayed out an extra lap trying to get a positive tire delta going forward earlier. And it lost him an entire second by doing so. He does have a bit of a tire advantage, but the Chevy is so bad on worn tires, I'm not really sure if that was worth it, if it's really going to pay off in any significant way for him. Darkster's just kind of been running his own race. Nothing crazy through Maggots and Beckett's, but he's there. He's under the rear wing of that Corvette now. Maverick defending the inside. Darkser just seems to be content to hang out behind for now. He looks to the outside, likely going to try and cross over if at all possible. Puts his tires in the dirt trying to make that crossover happen, but it's just not happening. Now into the chicane. Maverick does a little bit of a halfway defense, keeping the Aston behind him for the moment. Good old Racing for Tina breast cancer awareness charity. You have to wonder, is Darkster just content to hang out behind Maverick right now, knowing that Darkster has basically no time penalties whatsoever, while Maverick has over 4 seconds worth? With that kind of knowledge, you wonder if Darkster would be content to just hang out behind, especially if he thinks that he's not fast enough to just outrun Maverick. Especially if he gets by Maverick, they pit, Maverick ends up behind him with fresher tires and immediately starts putting the pressure on him. Darkster may just say, it's not worth the fight for now. Again, we're expecting the final round of pit stops to begin at nearly any moment here. Darkster tucks up behind Maverick again. This time he might be going for it. Maverick is really aggressively defending the inside. Darkster wants that inside. He's going to go as late as possible. Shunts the Chevy off the ideal line. Makes contact again on corner exit. Maverick holds station. Darkster will have to find another way around by the looks of it. out of the final corner. Oh, something happened to this one lad. That's interesting. Yeah, one lad has fallen behind TJ. It seems like these two are now in a little bit of a spat of their own now. One lad trying to be the second McLaren to be in the top 5 positions here on track. So a fight for third and a fight for fifth is on right now. At Chevy, defending the inside, so Darkster goes to the outside, trying to set up for a crossover. Not going to get a good crossover run through here normally. Then you got this duo, TJ over this one lad. Lad has a draft on him, but not close enough to make a move. He does close it down under braking, though. All right, here they go into Maggots and Beckett's once again. That's Virtuoso in second. There's the move. Darkster got Maverick, it looked like. Coming out of Maggots and Beckett's, got the power down better, and there's just nothing that Chevy can do. And Darkster's pitting, though. Darkster's pitting very early compared to when we thought he would. So Darkster pits on lap 43, or 42, so he's going to have to go another 15 laps, so maybe Maverick has something in the books that will work for him here. Again, Maverick does have a positive tire delta. He can wait a little bit longer, try a short fill, but we are now in the middle of our final round of pit stops here in Stint 3. If you want more GT3 racing, do not worry. We've got more GT3 racing for you. 3 more stints after this one. We're likely going to be here until like 11 o'clock at night, my time. So don't you worry. We are going to be here covering the entirety of the Silver Lobby here for VER Silverstone 2000 kilometer Enduro. Darkster has ended up just a little bit ahead of Chungus and a little bit behind this one lad and TJ, who are having their own legitimate fight for position. One lad to the inside of TJ. TJ crosses over. Now one lad looks to the outside. He pulls out. Does not want to go side by side. Not yet. Not now. As these two fight, it's going to bring Darkster right up behind him, and he's going to have to deal with them potentially. Could end up compromising Darkster's outlap. Keyword being could. Arkina pits this time by. What a Virtuoso, who is in the Mercedes. We see Anthony, who just went a lap down. He also will go ahead and jump in the pits, but Virtuoso is going to stay out a little bit longer. So some drivers likely trying to set up for a short fill to the end here. So Virtuoso will be the third different driver to lead today. So Maverick, Virtuoso, and Arkina all have led at some point or another today. Arkina is the only driver thus far to have pitted. I mean, that might change. We're likely going to see a bunch of drivers pitting now. Where's Arkina getting up in relation to Maverick? Because if Arkina ends up behind... Oh, Arkina ended up behind Maverick. Ooh, that won't help Maverick. That won't help Arkina very much. One lad, Chungus, Figgy Boy, and Kimmy all pit, but TJ stays out. Anzio pits. Kimmy pits. Is Arkina going to be held up at all, I wonder? And for Darkster, he still has to worry about Maverick. The gap between Darkster and Maverick is about 22 seconds right now. They're both in clean air, but Darkster has fresh tires for now. Maverick has worn tires, but Maverick will end up with a positive tire delta to the very end here by the looks of it. Because Darkster pitted very early, and Maverick may be looking to pit very late. Arkina closing down on Maverick. Again, we don't know how much longer Maverick is going to stay out on track here. Last time by, Maverick stayed out until he was literally at 0% fuel. He was on fumes coasting into the pit lane. Virtuoso pits this time by. So that will give the lead over potentially to Maverick if Maverick stays out, and it will give the lead to Arkina if Arkina stays. Okay, so Maverick pits this time. So this is the moment. We're going to follow SFM Darkser, who's in relatively clean air. Where is he going to be in relation to Arkina? He pitted 2 laps earlier than the Chevrolet. The Chevrolet has to go about 13 laps-ish. Yeah, 13 laps. Darkser has to go closer to 15 laps. So Darkser's pushing his tires a little bit more towards the edge, but he should be a little bit better on penalties. Maverick is much worse on penalties, but he'll have fresher tires. Should be able to negate most of the tire fall off that Chevy really struggles with. Who's going to end up ahead of who as they come out of pit lane? Well, there's your answer. The Chevy is exactly dead even with the Aston as they go into turn 3. I don't think he could have timed that any better. Again, Maverick now has 2 laps worth of a tire advantage over SFM Darkser. But Darkser has a penalty advantage right now. And Spino has cycled up into the 5th spot right now, but that's only because he has not yet made his final stop. He'll likely make it at the end of this lap, and will be going for a very, very short fill here. He is the only driver outside of Chief Wolf who has not made his 3rd stop yet. But again, I anticipate that he is going to try and set up for a very short pit stop, going to underfill the car and hope that fresh tires really work out. He'll have no worry about tire fall off when he pits at the end of this lap. He is going to be fighting with the likes of Figgy Boy and Kimmy, I think, for 10th position, more than likely. Chungus runs a little bit behind Rexpertise. Chungus was as high as running the top 5, but as this event has gone on, his pace has just been bleeding off, and he has been slowly hemorrhaging time. Rexpertise, I think his move of recovery is going to stall out around the 8th spot. This one lad has fallen back behind TJ again, but not by much. And immediately he is putting the screws to that Mercedes, and Mercedes is going to block the outside. Now he blocks the inside. The McLaren's getting very frustrated. He's going to go to the inside. TJ is moving like 5 times. I don't know if you're allowed to move that many times under braking in a straightaway. If you are, GG's to TJ for making that work, but he moved like 3 different times to keep one lad behind him. And yeah, Spino is in the pit now, so he's going to fall behind this duo, I would imagine. Here comes one lad trying to go around the long way in turn 2. Can he go for the dive in turn 3? No, he actually backs out of it. Being a little bit conservatively here. And Darkser has already gotten back ahead of Maverick. That took no time at all. So despite gaining a tire advantage, Darkser's already taken care of Maverick. And Darkser puts the Aston into 3rd. That is the highest we have seen an Aston run all event since Shredder ran as high as 2nd in Stint 2 before getting dumped by a Chevy. Now Maverick should be able to keep pace with Darkser for a while, but again, penalty dictates that Darkser is going to have a massive advantage on Maverick. There's just not going to be a way for Maverick to get back by him. So as this fight continues, German manufacturer versus British manufacturer here at the British. Oh, and TJ went off! TJ missed the corner real bad going into Maggots and Beckett's that time. And that will give the position to one lad. And TJ's going to fall more than a second off in the process. And that will pretty much bring a close to that little spat. Oh, the Darkster go off. Darkster got held up by traffic. Traffic is the thing that holds up Darkster, and now here comes Maverick on the inside. Can't keep it there, though. But suddenly this fight is back to life. Maverick tucked up behind Darkster. He's going to have a great draft. Good top end. Will he have the confidence to go for a big move here into braking? He's going to the inside, but is not going to commit to it. Oh, but Darkster missed. He couldn't complete the door close. Maverick's there. And Maverick gets by him. Maverick's by. Didn't see that coming. So Maverick is back by. I thought this fight was over. And I hate to say it, but with with time penalties, it is over, but Maverick is not going down without a fight here. Oh no, the Chevy lost it. The Chevy lost it all. Could not keep the car under him through Maggots and Beckett's, and all the fighting, the hard work is gone now. He falls behind Darkster and behind traffic. And that will pretty much be the end of that. All right, we're going to take one last ad break. This will be the last one, and when we come back, we will be with this race to the end, to the checkered flag. We're going to ride on board. Well, actually, we're not even going to do that. I'm just going to do this instead. And we will be back momentarily here at Silverstone for the final sprint to the end here for Stint 3 of 6. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Silverstone. GGA Spino is still hanging out behind Figgy Boy, hoping that maybe he can make something happen to pull off another top 10 result here. But at the front, NWR Arkina has led without struggle since the end of the first round of pit stops. He might pull off a 14-second victory over second place TBR Virtuoso. While Virtuoso definitely had the umption to fight with Arkina, he does not have the lap times to keep up with him. Third place has actually ended up going to SFM Darkser. Now, he does still have AFZ Maverick behind him, putting pressure on him, but Maverick has over 4 seconds worth of time penalties, while Darkser has none. So even though Maverick is right behind him, Maverick has better tires, this fight is more than likely going to go in Darkser's favor. It doesn't matter what Maverick does. Fifth place has gone to this one lad who has been doing a very slow, steady fight up the grid and runs in 5th position on track right now. 6th place goes to VER TTJ 111, who at one point was up in the top 5, but seems to have stabilized in 6th. Rexpertise, who was knocked off circuit by SFM Darkser right before the final chicane early in the event. He went off, Darkser went off, they both stopped. Darkser stopped in sympathy with Rex. He said, hey, look, that was no good, I'm not coming with you. But as Darkser and Rexpertise came back onto the track, Rexpertise got into it with Apex Kimmy, which caused both of them to fall even farther down the grid. Rexpertise, I think his recovery drive is going to stall out in about the 7th spot. 8th place goes to PTG Chungus, who at one point was as high as 4th or 5th, but has since gradually seen his pace dribble away. He has now been caught by Apex Kimmy. Kimmy, who is also on his own slow recovery tour, has caught Chungus and might be in a position to put that 666 machine under a little bit of pressure here, and depending on how things go for Expertise, he might be able to steal a 7th place as well. 10th place is Figgy Boy, who is in the boys McLaren, and he is running about half a second ahead, well, about a second and a half ahead of this driver here, GGA Spino, on circuit. 12th place is Onzio, not quite as good as where he probably feels he should be, but he is still on the lead lap at least. Then it's a big drop back, almost 40 seconds until you get to DMS Sleepy, who is going to be fighting to try and stay on the lead lap. Then you have Deadpan X, who is a BMW, the first BMW, way back in 14th, and is legitimately at risk of finishing this race a lap down. Then you have Postal Penguin, who is the first driver a lap down, damaged the engine on 2 separate occasions, so he has not only dealt with significant amounts of engine damage, he has basically made an entire extra pit stop needing to repair that damage because it was so terminal. Everything has just gone wrong for Postal Penguin, and he's likely going to get deemed post-race for improper following the blue flags, because he kind of put Darkster in a bad position earlier. Then you have AFZ Anthony, who is the second of the BMWs. He is a lap down. And then you have Chief Wolfie, who is also a lap down, but unless something goes wrong, I think Chief is likely going to be able to stay only 1 lap down. I don't think he'll go 2 laps down here before this is over. So Maverick and Darkser continue to go back and forth for these positions. But again, penalties basically dictate that, barring something crazy like Darkser suddenly tearing his engine apart, Maverick is going to lose this fight. Once more, we look at the penalties. 1.5 seconds for Arkina, 2.4 for Virtuoso, nothing for SFM Darkser, 4.1 for Maverick, 2.6 for this one lad, nothing for TJ. 0.6 for Rexpertise, half a second for Chungus, 1.5 for Kimmy, 1.5 for Figgy Boy, 2.4 for Spino, 1.6 for Onzio, 4 entire seconds of penalties for DMS Sleepy, nothing for Deadpan, 0.7 for Postal Penguin. AFZ Anthony is over 5 seconds. Yeah, 5.5 seconds. I don't know how in the world you do that when you're running by yourself, not really fighting with anybody most of the day. And then Chief Wolfie, while he is last by a significant margin, he is keeping the car nice and clean here today. And real quickly at the changes since the start of the event. Again, Windows please, should have been in front. Lagged out on attempt 1. They did attempt 2. He had to start in the back. Lagged out. Did attempt 3. He still lagged out. Each time he lagged out earlier and earlier. So Windows Please had no real effect. The interesting thing, AFC Maverick started on pole. It's fallen to 4th. TBR Virtuoso started way down in 14th. Has raced their way up to 12th. NWR Arkina started 4th. Raced their way up to 1st. There is a legitimate chance that we could see that NWR team really close in I think Maverick might still have the overall lead for his team going into Stint 4, but it's going to be very close. I think that NWR team is really in a fantastic spot. Darkser started down in 9th, raced his way up to 3rd. This one lad, incredible stuff, has gone from 16th to 5th today. He has been on an absolute tear. TTJ started 5th, slipped down to 6th. Rexpertise is running where he started. Kimmy went from 15th to 7th. So very, very good on their part. Now, partially though, that is because that Kimmy had a Kimmy's car had a disconnect in Stint 2. So that is the main reason why they are way down, and they are likely going to continue to be starting at the rear of the grid for all of the remaining stints. So Kimmy's going to have to be crawling their way up to the grid for all the remainder of the event. Chungus was 6th, fell down to 9th. Figgy Boy was actually in 3rd, and has fallen to 10th. Spino is running basically where he was. Anzio has fallen from 8th to 12th. DMS Sleepy has fallen from 10th to 13th. Deadpan has fallen from 12th to 14th. Postal Penguin was 2nd and has, with all that engine damage, has fallen all the way back to 15th, a lap down. So while they are not out of it in the same way that Windows Please is out of it, that team is going to have to really figure out something to try and claw their way back into contention for this event right now. Then you have AFZ Anthony, who has technically gained a position, but again, car lagged out, so they're not really in a position. And then Chief Wolfie is started in 13th, but is really only there because of the way lagouts have gone over the stints thus far, and he has fallen to 17th off the back of pace. As we continue to watch this battle going on between Darkster and Maverick right now on circuit. PTG Chungus has actually fallen behind Apex Kimmy as this has gone on. So Kimmy has moved up to 8th now, just a little bit behind Rexpertise, who he was involved in that instant earlier, going through the final chicane. So about 10 minutes left here. About 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, left in Stint 3 here. We're almost halfway through. Maverick continues to harass Darkser. Interesting thing again, Darkser will be dealing with some significant tire fall off, and it looks like Darkser has engine damage. And Darkser will dealing with tire fall off and engine damage. It's going to put him in a rough position against Maverick. But again, Maverick has a significant amount of time penalties. So I think Darkser has got this one way or another. Real quickly looking at this one lad and TJ here. One lad runs about 2 seconds up the road. He's at 34%. He's got a little bit of engine damage. He's got 34% tires. TJ is at 31%. So TJ has a tire advantage. Then you get to Rexpertise, Kimmy, and Chungus. Rexpertise is at 28.8 in the rear. Kimmy is at 35.9 at the front. And Chungus is at 36.5. So Rexpertise has a significant advantage. Maverick has gotten back by Darkser again. And now Darkser gets to the inside of Maverick. They're going to be side by side. One of these two are going to have to back out on the run into Maggis and Beckett's. Who's it going to be? Neither of them. That's a risk. That's a risk. You don't want to do that. They're still side by side. And finally, Maverick backs out of it. I think both of them tried backing out, but they backed out at the same time, so they both slowed each other down, that they were able to navigate their way through Maggots and Beckett's, but that didn't really do either of them favors, I would argue. Maverick really trying to pinch Darkser down, but Darkser gets the position back. Maverick is fighting back, though. He's got the speed. Does he go deep into braking into the chicane? No, not this time. Not this time. And now they come out of the final corner and accelerate forward. They've got about 4 laps left here. DMS Sleepy has now gone a lap down, but Anzio is far enough up the road that unless he ends up in an accident that totals his car, he should not have to worry about going a lap down here. Kimi continues to close in bit by bit on Rexpertise, but the tires are not working out in his favor. They're only getting worse and worse as this goes on. Chungus has completely lost this duel. I think Chungus is fine. He'll finish in 9th. If he's far enough ahead of Figgy Boy, won't have to worry about that. But frustration for Chungus, who at one point was up in the top 5 for a significant period of this stint, but this has just not been there in the slightest for him today. TJ is losing ground to one lad, so that fight seems to be pretty much over. Maverick, even though he has a positive tire scenario, is still losing ground here to Darkser. Has lost the draft on that Aston going down the straight that time. Maverick damaged his engine, actually. No, he's just losing it because this car is no good. Once you get to about 30% tire life, this Chevrolet just becomes awful to run. It's fantastic for the first half of the tire run, but then I guess the second half, and it just falls off absolutely nasty. Kimi continues to stalk Rexpertise. Tires aren't going to be working for him very well for much longer, but Kimi may have the pace to try and beat Rexpertise here. The other thing to consider, if it comes down to penalties, Rexpertise has less than half of what Kimi does. So it may not matter what Kimi does. Rexpertise might get him just off the back of penalties here. Maverick got by Darkser again, apparently. Oh, they're still side by side as they go around the 180. Drag race out onto the old start-finish straightaway here. Someone's going to have to back out in this corner. It's going to have to be Maverick. He does not. Neither of them back out. And they're drag racing again, this time down to Maggotts and Beckett's. Who backs out early this time? It's going to be Maverick, right? Yes, Maverick backs out and lets Darkser have it. Darkser went a little bit too deep, though, compromised himself. And look at that, Maverick immediately right back on. So Darkser keeps making mistakes as his tires are falling off, and it's keeping Maverick there. Again, Darkser has this for good, but as these two continue to fight back and forth, both of them are just losing overall time. They're both almost 30 seconds off of Arkina. We could very easily see Maverick's team lose the overall lead here. They are basically given the lead on a silver platter with Windows Please being unable to run, but Maverick has not been able to do anything with it. He spent so much time fighting with Darkser in the latter third of this event that he's just going to hammer time. If not for fighting with Darkser, if he just let Darkser by and just hung out in Darkser's draft, I think that potentially these guys could be another 5 seconds up the road. They both have about 2 laps left here. And we look at Darkser and his tires. He's at 49%, and he's got a little bit of engine damage. Not a lot, but he does have some engine damage. And he's going to be dealing with some awful tire fall off here. If Darkser pulls off third, it's only going to be off the back of the distance penalties. Kimi has lost touch with Rexpertise now. In fact, every position on track has pretty much lost touch with each other now. It's just this one. And really, it's just a matter of, can Darkser keep it on track? Darkser just needs to not go off circuit, not bin it into the dirt. Virtuoso seems to have stabilized the bleeding. It looks like he'll be about 12 seconds behind Arkina at the end of this. Maverick still runs in Darkser's draft as they rush down to Maggotts and Beckett's again. That is a little bit of traffic ahead. I believe that is Keith Wolfie. Yep, that is Keith Wolfie just ahead. The leader's coming down to take the white flag. But again, this is not, oh, the leader takes the flag and everyone records where they are. Everyone completes their 57 laps. Well, looks like Wolfie got out of the way without any issue there. Gets to the inside just a little bit there. Oh, a bit of a twitch, bit of a slide. Onto the start-finish straight once again. Now rushing down to the S's for the final time. We'll see Arkina on the map crossing the line momentarily. Oh! Darkstar messed up! Darkstar blew the corner and Maggots and Beckett's. Maverick gets back by. Again, time penalties will work out in Darkstar's favor. But at least on track, Maverick has nipped him. Is Darkstar going to try and fight back, or is he just going to hang out behind the Chevy on the run to the end here? He looks to the outside. He closes down. Not willing to do anything yet. Arkina finishes. Virtuoso finishes. Here comes Maverick and Darkstar. We know Darkstar will have third. Bit of a wheel hop there by that number 26. As they come across the line, there's the result between the two of them. This one lad is going to be the second McLaren to come home in the top 5 finishing positions. TJ, a little bit farther back, will take 6th over Rexpertise. Oh! Penalties worked out in TJ's favor. On time penalties, TJ clipped one lad for 5th. Rexpertise gets 6th. Rexpertise gets 7th. Kimmy gets 8th. Chungus gets 9th. Biggie Boy will get 10th. 11th should go to Spino here, who spins coming to the line. Anzio will be the one to get 12th, last of everyone on the lead lap. And then it will be all the lapped cars who will finish afterwards. All right, we're going to knock out an ad break here, and we'll, again, throw out invites to our top 5 finishers, see if they have anything they want to say from the run here at Silverstone. We'll be back momentarily here. Hello, can you hear me?
Hey.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, sweet. In the Xbox party, is there a option to include your audio?
I already did it.
All right, sweet. Yeah, go ahead and hit that if you can then.
I already have.
Done.
All right, sweet. This goes to Maverick and Virtuoso as well. In the Xbox party, there should be a little box that will say, click to include audio. Please hit that if you can.
Yep.
All right, sweet. Just waiting for this thing to end here. At least everyone's actually going to get their distance in this time, saying that it didn't happen the last few times. All right. Excuse me. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Silverstone. As we are done with Stint 3, we are halfway through, and I want to start with talking with our Stint 3 winner, NWR Arkina. Arkina, you didn't start right at the front, but you immediately went and pounced on the leaders and opened up a pretty healthy gap. How in the world did you pull that off today?
I noticed I had pace on the first stint, but I somehow got in some troubles on the first stint, so I knew I could fight for a victory, but I didn't expect me to be that fast, to be honest.
All right, this coupled with Maverick falling down the order and Postal Penguin being way back in 15th and Windows Please disconnecting, you guys are either leading or you're going to be very close to leading overall. Who's taking over the car in Stint 4?
Virage is gonna double stint the next two.
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on that then. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us, Arkina. Good job out there.
Thank you, no problem.
All right, now I want to talk with our second place finisher, TBR Virtuoso. Virtuoso, you seem to be the only driver on track who had anything for Arkina before the pit stop cycle was finished, but you still came home with a very respectable second. What do you have to say about your run out there today? Well, it was still a very, very respectable and strong second place result, considering that you came all the way back from about the 14th position is incredible. I do have to ask, though, who's taking over the car for Stint 4? All right. We'll be keeping an eye on what Fat Mark can do then. Thanks again, Virtuoso, for jumping in and talking with us. Great job out there. All right, I now want to go ahead and talk with our third place finisher, SFM Darkser. Darkser, interesting scenario. The Aston Martin Vantage is, while they've shown competitiveness in the first two stints, we're nowhere near the front. In stints 1 or 2, you brought this car home third, well, all while driving for a special cause as well. What do you have to say about your run out there today?
Well, first off, I do want to apologize to Rexpertise for a definitely unintentional, but still frustrating front to rear contact there, and then he ended up getting taken out after we rejoined the track, which wasn't my fault, but still frustrating. But yeah, as you mentioned, we're racing for a great cause. We have a fundraiser going on Just Giving for Breast Cancer Now, which is a UK-based breast cancer sport charity. Pretty cool. So great to have that on the car, and I feel like my stint otherwise went pretty well. Other than the 8 or so seconds I sacrificed after punting Rex, race went pretty good. Was able to make some passes, do really good protracted fight there with AFZ Maverick, which was pretty fun. All in all, the racing itself was pretty good, and I think that the way the cars interacted provided for a lot of opportunity to see the strengths and the weaknesses of each play out over the course of the stint.
I would definitely have to agree with you there. I do want to ask, who's slipping into the car for Stint 4?
Next up for us it was supposed to be just Alexi, but it's actually going to be AER Wolf. Alexi's not feeling well, so Wolf is going to do both Stint 4 and 5, or stage, I should say.
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us, Dark Sir, and thanks once again for making sure that we are aware of breast cancer and ways to contribute to try and make it a little bit less problematic and expensive for people. And now I want to go ahead and talk with our fourth place finisher, which is Maverick. Maverick, frustrating time. The overall event leader lags out 3 times in a row. You're given the lead, and yet it all just kind of dribbles away as the event goes on. What went wrong today, Maverick?
Me. Usually the pace was there.
The car was fine. The tune was perfect. The problem was the pilot, and I tried to assume all the responsibility about. This is my first time. Well, one of my first times playing with the direction in simulation, and it's kind of hard to me to try to drive this car. And the pace was there. Kind of frustrating. Try to not fight for the first place, and the podium either.
All right, your team is still really close to being right at the front. You're either leading by a small amount or your team is still very close to the front overall. Who's taking over the car in Stint 4?
Me.
All right, we'll see you going back to back. Hopefully things go a little bit better for you then in the next stint.
We will. Thank you.
All right, and that's the word from AFZ Maverick. I sent some invites out to TJ. It did not either. He's not able to jump in or he's not willing to. But either way, that will pretty much wrap up our broadcast here for Stint 3. We are halfway through the Silverstone 2,000 kilometers. We'll be back momentarily here for Stint 4. But until that broadcast starts, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insanely 13. Thank you very much for joining us. Farewell and goodbye, everyone.